It's an app.
What's an app?
Need you to make me a website.
No Blackberries, no websites.
It's not a website.
I've already made the website.
You made a website?
Website check, please.
Organic search engine traffic is dying. Treat your website like a storefront. Build the content. Find the customers. There is no easy button. It takes time. Shift your priorities. Don't trust anyone to do it for you.
Welcome back to another episode of the Create Podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little contradictory. For those of you who don't know, I have a consulting business. I help businesses build their digital footprint. I help businesses expand and explore, connecting with their customers online, with apps, and all those kinds of things. And primarily, website consulting, email campaigns, marketing campaigns, those kinds of things. But today, so it's a little contradictory, but you don't actually need a website. Scary thought, isn't it? Especially in this day and age. So we're going to talk about a bunch of things. I want to hit a little bit on the .com boom and how everyone has this thought that you build a website, people will come to it, people will visit it. But it's actually a false thought. And that's because just like if you have a storefront, if you build it, people are not going to come. It used to be said, you build it, people will come. That's not true, especially after COVID. People are not going to show up to events. People are not going to show up just because you're running an event. You actually need to promote it. You need to show that you have value. You need to show that it has a purpose and a reason for existing. But most people, they live in this world where the digital footprint, their website, their app, just because they have a website, just because they have an app, they believe that they're entitled to receive viewership from Google with search engine optimization, receive people enrolling into their email campaigns, receive people making purchases organically. This is without paying for ads. And it's a thought today that we're going to kind of break open. And I want you to consider your website less of an organic pathway for your customers to kind of funnel into your business, but more of a storefront. So you still have to get traffic to your storefront. You still have to get people to walk to your storefront, look at your storefront, pay attention to it. But if your storefront is beautiful, if you walk in and you see all the products and you're seeing everything there, then the traffic that you can direct to your website can convert, and you can get sales, and you can then funnel them into the rest of your marketing campaign. Those of you who don't know, when I use the term funnel, I'm using that term to say, think of a funnel. So you have, the open part bigger, and it's got a little spout at the end, and you pour stuff in, and small amount of stuff comes out. In a sales process, in a marketing process, a funnel is a process of which you get people, viewers, audience, email subscribers, clicks, social media, all these things pouring into a well-planned, well-thought-out marketing campaign that includes things like a micro website, which is a specialized website. It's a single page website that's designed specifically to sell one product, one service, and to do that well. You may have a business that sells hundreds of products, hundreds of services, but you build a special marketing page, a landing page is what they sometimes call them. These pages become your marketing flow. You bring people to these pages and they can go through the purchase process, which is your funnel, or if it's an email marketing campaign, or if it's a free download, that kind of thing, and you can direct people. This funnel process, commonly, people used to think that you just build a website, here you go, and call their website part of funneling those customers in. And viewers, etc., those people that would funnel in the process, you used to be able to guarantee that there was an organic reach that search engine optimization, SEO, with Google, Yahoo, all these older companies, would funnel traffic to your website. But with the invention of Web 2.0, social media, YouTube, Google, and all of these bigger websites have discovered it's much better for them to control the flow of information so you stay on their services longer. You stay on Instagram longer, you stay on TikTok longer, you stay on Google longer. And all of these new whiz-bang AI features that Google is employing is, technically, it's not artificial intelligence in the sense that we all believe from reading fiction and, seeing Terminator and all kind of stuff. It's just a neural network, which is just a very sophisticated function, for lack of a better word. Well, definitely a series of functions. Anyway. And how AI works is you train it based off of information. ChatGPT uses a transformer to take your question, convert 3 to 4 characters is what they consider a token, and they convert your message into numbers, pass that through this trained model, which then outputs numbers, which is then transformed again to a response. In fact, all AI is a predictive model based off of the numeric representation of your question. Now, some of the more advanced research-based AI and these new models that are coming out are really, really cool, but they're also killing organic website traffic. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised that all organic website traffic from a search engine, from ChatGPTs and AIs are just going to be very limited numbers in comparison to what they were during the dot-com boom and, even 5 years ago. The reality is AI is shifting the landscape. You no longer can guarantee, I put a website out, I follow typical SEO practices, which Google just smashed all the SEO practices, and you can't rely on keywords and you can't rely on all the stuff that people used to do for good SEO because Google just said, ChatGPT is stealing my data. They're scrolling using Google as their search index to find other websites. So now they're going to kill access to their search index. So now you can't compare and you're stuck with Google's specific algorithm. In fact, I think Google has done more harm to website and website developers over the past 10 years than they have ever done any good. And I know that's a controversial statement, but I tell you, just because you support schema.org and all of these definitions that let Google recognize, products, recipes, blog posts, etc., all this extra work that you now have to do. But instead of it being helpful, it's being used to train AI. It's being used to train their new search engine experience, which is designed to give you the information you need without having to click, which is a great experience. I hated clicking on websites too, but that's what you had to do. And so now as marketers, you no longer don't put your eggs in that website basket thinking that it's going to be an organic funnel for you to get new customers, engagements, etc. I'm not trying to scare you into not building a website, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you get to build one, but treat it more like a storefront. Treat it more like a showcase than something you're trying to think that just because you have one is going to direct traffic. And even if you have a website, studies are showing that it's less and less that organic traffic is actually going to convert. And so you need multiple funnels, which can include multiple funnel sources, which can include websites, social media, email campaigns, media marketing campaigns, old school sales calls, buying mail lists, and all of these things that you can do to kind of expand your sources that you're then pushing through this funnel that then may produce customers, engagements, etc. But you can't rely on SEO anymore. So let's take a quick look here. The internet started way back when, you had scientists creating and experimenting with connecting networks. And, you had someone by the name of JCR Licklider who proposed a solution of an intergalactic network of computers that could talk to one another in 1962. In 1965, they started the experiments, and that's when packet switching, which, if you don't know, when you go to a website, you're actually downloading kilobits of information, which are wrapped around packets to ensure that the information that you're receiving is redundant, because anything radio frequency is not perfect. It only looks perfect because of the amount of redundancy in it. And I'm not going to give you a whole network course, but it's bits, not bytes. That's why you buy gigabit connections or megabit connections and not megabyte connections. So megabyte is 8 bits. But for network transmission, because of the way packets work, when they're sending you a bit, it's actually wrapped around a whole bunch of information, which is why they have to limit you into various bandwidth depending on what they support and depending on what the radio frequency supports, that kind of thing. Praise God for fiber and 5G. So the first, we'll say node to node, okay, or computer to computer for lack of a better word, more of device to device, but node to node communication was sent on October 29th, 1969, and it was the first message from one computer to another. And it was just login. A simple flag, a simple command. Very simple. Eventually, scientists began to experiment with this feature, in the 1970s, and they began to build what we know as the Transmission Control Protocol, or TCP. It's one of the different layers of network communication, which then helped lead its way to this World Wide Web of interconnected links and interconnectivity. And that somewhere around 1980s is when research scientists started to send files and data from one computer to another, kind of like their own private network, but it was more terminal to terminal. You should look at what green screen looked like. We didn't have graphical interfaces in the 90s. That they were relatively new. God bless you. Well, in 1991 is when the name of the internet, being a public face, being accessible to everyone, World Wide Web, became something that was developed. And then, of course, you had things like National Science Foundation that helped build and expand on this. And then eventually you have the rise of, a version of Web 1.0, where you click on the link, it downloads text, it downloads images, kind of a style. It's really old school. And you have mild interactivity, where instead you download the whole message, you make changes, and you hit post, and that would send it out. And then in the Web 2.0 era, with the advent of JavaScript and people experimenting with ActiveX, and eventually now we have the Fetch API, which is 10,000 times better than using anything Ajax or ActiveX. And now you have almost real-time communication, social media networks, blogs, microblogs, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all those kinds of applications that are like nearly instant in your mind. And of course, when we step into understanding why the internet has exploded, to understand a little bit about why the internet has become an essential component and how the IA works, and now how SEO is no longer a guaranteed method or funnel source. So, .com bubble, you may or may not hear this. This is, it's considered a stock market bubble that ballooned during the late 1990s and kind of peaked in February, March 2000. This is a period of market growth, considered widespread adoption of the World Wide Web and the internet, and a lot of startups, and you had a lot of people investing into it. You had certain stock indexes that like quadrupled and quintupled in size. And so basically with the invention of radio, television, transistors, and then home computers, personal computers like the Apple Macintosh and the other different personal computers that were available at the time, you had the inception of the internet back when it was dial-up. Or you'd literally plug in your phone and you'd hear it dial a phone number, and you'd hear it like, kind of like a fax machine, and you'd hear it connect to the internet, and you'd really, really slow speeds. And it wasn't until, many years later, you get cable companies on the board, and you start getting, swift advances in radio frequencies to be able to transmit more information. In fact, believe it or not, the cable wire that you have that plugs into your homes actually is radio frequency transmitted in that copper wire, that coaxial cable. It is not like a USB-C where it's just electric connections. It's full radio frequencies sent out, and you're sending them from the modem back and forth to their hubs, their networks, and things of that nature. So it's just a way to shield and kind of like, not beamform, but kind of keep the radio signal more isolated, so that way you can transmit more information. Interesting. So in the 2000s, you had a lot of many startups. Most common one knowns, eBay, Amazon. eBay's kind of dead. And you had Google. And Google began indexing, and people began to invest into startups and all this kind of stuff. And then you had different types of browsers. Mosaic, Netscape, God bless Internet Explorer. May it forever be dead and never come back to life. Then you had Firefox, Mozilla, and all these kinds of things. Eventually, the bubble was helped with different, the Telecommunication Act and the different ways to the government was helping to kind of spark this technology, trying to build this virtual digital marketplace, which we now know as, kind of our life. I don't know anyone that hasn't made an in-app purchase. I don't know anyone that hasn't bought something online. Like, very much that phone is the most essential thing in like any home. But as a result of this .com bubble, people were just buying a bunch of .com websites. In fact, domain squatting, where you buy a domain from a company, a business that's well known, that's not yet online, became a thing. And they'd sell them back for thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. In fact, they still do that now. Even though technically ICANN, it's like an international, is an internet corporation, it's an international corporation for assigned names and numbers. That's domain names, typically. And according to their rules, domain squatting is illegal. So if you can prove that someone is not using a domain and they're squatting it with the purpose of reselling it, GoDaddy premium domains, Google premium domains, pretty much any premium domain. By the way, if you buy a premium domain, some hosts are now charging a monthly fee as opposed to you buy it one time and own it. It's getting really crazy out there. All a domain name is, you go to google.com, which it connects, you type in google.com, it connects to 8.8.4.4 or 4.4.4.4, whatever it is, for name servers, which then the name server then consolidates google.com to a machine or list of machines, and you pick one, and that's the machine that you're connecting to. That's how google.com works. All the internet traffic is routed from one machine to another machine to another machine to be able to generate that index that you experience and give you login, all those kinds of stuff that you experience from Google. But it's all through google.com. Otherwise, you'd have to learn, like dialing a phone, type in 8.8.8.8, or, the local host is 120.0.0.1. Or, an internal network might be 192.168 or 10.0. whatever. And nowadays, that's IP version 4. Nowadays, you have IP version 6, which is like a MAC address, which is this larger number that's just even more hard to recognize or to remember. So domain names hide that machine identifier that says, okay, somewhere in the network, there's a machine with this IP address, this MAC address, and I'm going to connect to it. MAC address is a little bit different, but anyway, I'm going to connect to it. So I'll send my packets into the World Wide Web. It'll get found by that machine. The machine will respond. And thank God for HTTPS, because before HTTPS, anyone could read those packets and information, but now they're encrypted using HTTPS. It's a certificate technology that encrypts the data you're sending to a server to only be received by that server. And as long as that certificate hasn't been tampered with, you're now in a secure world. HTTPS actually is just a secure transmission method. Well, it's part of PCI compliance. HTTPS, that lovely little thing people all like, all browsers. Nobody pretty much knows what it is anymore because it's by default all websites HTTPS. But just because your communication to a machine is secure doesn't mean that machine's network or that machine is secure or that developer uses secure practices. So still, when you're entering credit card numbers, entering personal information, always look at the source. If the source doesn't look verifiable, if they got spelling errors, grammatical errors, if the website is a very long domain that you don't recognize and you're being redirected from a domain you think you know to a domain you don't know, don't enter your personal information. Don't do it. Spamming, phishing, that's where you get an email that looks legit and you click on a link in an email. Never click on links on an email. Never do it. Not if it's from your bank, not if it's from, one of my sales emails, please click on them. But if it's from your bank, if it's a message from Google, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, go to google.com. Go to instagram.com. Go to yourbank.com. Do not click on random links from emails. Now, emails are a little bit more secure now with DKIM and SPIF records and those kinds of things, but I am really getting too technical. But back to the .com boom. This is when people started to spend billions of dollars, telecom communication companies that are trying to interconnect massive amount of computers and to generate this World Wide Web. And then there was this scare. It's called the Y2K bug. In computers, before terabyte storage was available, storage used to be a very, very expensive thing. So instead of recording 4-digit years, they record 2-digit years. So you would enter, if 01/01/90 would be January 1st, 90. And banks and whole systems were built on this concept. Well, the fear was, once you went from 12/31/99 to 01/01/00, the computer systems wouldn't know how to treat it because you went into the next century and that 2-digit number is now reset to 0. Now, my father was one of many different developers that worked overnight and days and days and days to fix these bugs and to change 2-digit years to 4-digit years. There's basic accounting dates. So that bug didn't really produce the apocalypse. People thought, traffic jams because traffic lights weren't going to work. People weren't going to be able to use ATMs and credit card processing, and like the whole digital world would fail. This is like even before smartphones were like a thing, and they were all afraid. And so around that time is when that .com boom kind of started crashing. People spent a lot of money, and then eventually these telecom companies just blew through a lot of cash. And this boom here, everyone's spending, everyone's investing, and then investors just got scared, and stocks that were $333 per share, which in 1999 is a whole lot of money, fell to like half, $140 a share. And so that crashed, a loss of 60% in a single day. And the next day, the Federal Reserve rates went up. God, that's when we started losing interest rates. And that's when the .com bubble burst. So all these venture capitalists and all this kind of get pulled back from investing into digital companies. And, we kind of, outside of social media, we kind of sold a little bit in internet development. And then, we had Google develop their own browser and Google search engine for a long time, and cloud services, and you moved over to Web 2.0, and people have real-time access to information. And then around a little bit before COVID, a little bit after, you start getting ChatGPT and OpenAI, which used to be nonprofit. And that's a whole other discussion. And they can build these vast models, AI models, and they're building it on information stolen from the internet. This is where publishers, New York Times, everyone who's doing blogs, all that information that you're using, you gave to Google for free. ChatGPT, Google's, I don't remember what it's called. ChatGPT, Google, X, Bard, all of these things, Facebook's LLM, created huge mass databases of your website stolen information, copyrighted books, all the stuff, articles, stole it, and programmed their AI with it. They didn't pay for it. They're not paying for licensing. Their concept is if it's a website, it's freely accessible and it's free information. That's not the case. Websites are controlled properties, much like you would go to a library. They're controlled. You have copyright protections. I may have a blog. I may have information on it. I may have code and such. All of that can be protected from a legal standpoint. Unfortunately, from a technological standpoint, none of that is protected. Like the client-side version of Universe App Tools, one of these systems and platforms I'm releasing, that component, outside of obfuscation, is technically usable by anyone. Now, granted, there's a whole server-side component that you kind of need that generates the client side, but anyone can steal anything on the web, whether it's code, whether it's, and we're talking about client-side code, not talking about server code, so don't think someone's going to go hack your bank, although that is possible. But for the most part, anything that's on the web is freely accessible. And so AI models are now trained on this information, and so people are spending more time on ChatGPT, spending more time, like now if I Google something, okay, I love doing this component here, so I'm going to use my vertical grid. There we go. Okay, here is my vertical grid. We're going to go here, and we're going to Google something. Now, this right here, this component plus this component is now going to decrease your clicks. So here's an AI overview, right? And it tells you, hey, January 1st, 1983 is when the first internet was considered to be invented, etc. Now, I told you a different date because mine comes from well-cited Wikipedia entries, well-cited articles, those kinds of things. But AI is not going to give you accurate information. In fact, I always recommend that you double-check AI. AI is a useful tool to prevent writer's block, to inspire you, to get you going on to the next idea. But because of how it's trained, it doesn't actually know what it's giving you. It's not like human interaction. I can tell you, here's the historical facts and figures, and you can go and you can verify it and be like, okay, this is wrong, this is right, okay, and I can make an informed decision. And when I go tell someone else, and be like, okay, here's the truth, here's the real fact, here's the real figure. AI never learns. Yeah. Now, reasoning AI is getting interesting, but it's not quite the same thing. And as you can see here, this one change means I don't have to scroll. I don't have to click on videos. I don't have to, even this right here, what people ask, okay, great, if I have more questions, I can expand it. And these are all AI generated answers. So now instead of spending time going to New York Times, going to Wikipedia, going to other entries, I'm not spending all my time on Google. And because I'm spending all my time on Google, I no longer am spending my time on your website. I'm no longer interacting with you, no longer going to a source that I recognize to pull information. And this is how AI is changing everything. In one of my podcasts coming up, we're going to talk about search engine wars, and we're going to talk about how AI is interfering with it. But basically, when you were a web designer, you designed your website to be search engine optimized. So the search engines, using special crawling software, web crawlers, robots, etc. That's what they would call these, pretty much advanced Python scripts, Google Go scripts, things of that nature. Go in, pull text from a website, pull images from a website, pull video from a website, process that information, and index it to display it to you. Now, instead of just indexing, they are legit stealing your information and posting it into their AI, so you're no longer getting organic traffic from a website. What does that mean? Well, when you design your website, don't care about Google anymore. Don't care about search engines at all. And here's why. Search engines are all going to be in for their business for screen time. Just like YouTube, with Reels and Instagram and TikTok, they're all trying to pull you in. So you spend hours, and legit people spend like 6 to 8 hours on average a day on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube Reels. And it's all designed so that they get your screen time and they can sell advertisements to you. Google sells ads too. In fact, in our example here, we're going back to our vertical grid. I got to turn off ad blocker. Don't tell people I use that. Ad blocker is a wonderful software. Wonderful software. So here we go back to my vertical grid. So here we are, right? You'll notice there's no ads here. No ads here. No ads here. There's no ads at all. Where are my ads? Well, that's interesting. Okay. Apparently that Google search had no ads. But search engines sell advertising. TikTok, Instagram sell advertising. Facebook sells advertising. In fact, one of the worst places you can do advertising is Facebook and Instagram. One of the worst. YouTube is close to that, but it depends on the type of product and service you have. And Google ads, if you just start them and you don't drill down and you don't do A/B testing and you don't kind of hone and fine tune that campaign, you're pretty much going to be wasting millions, thousands of dollars. And I've seen clients do it when they don't have a fine-tuned campaign. They get 2 sales and they spent thousands of dollars. I've seen it happen. It's tragic. You can only give people as much advice. But Google's fighting for your screen time. YouTube is fighting for your screen time, which is also owned by Google. Instagram is fighting for your screen time, owned by Facebook, which is fighting for your screen time. Twitter, X, is fighting for your screen time. YouTube is fighting for your screen time. Everyone is fighting for your valuable screen time because that's how they're making their money. That's how they're selling their advertisements. That's how they're trying to get you. Your website should now be considered a storefront, a place that you send traffic to that search engines don't send to. So you build a social media presence, you have a social media director or a social media person who's going through building your brand, building organic connections. Do not spend money on social media ads. Don't do it. Waste of money. Unless you have a really fine-tuned product and a fine-tuned marketing strategy, you're wasting money. But you can build an organic kind. So think of this way. The best marketing in the entire planet is called word of mouth marketing. I buy an iPhone and I tell everyone I know, don't ever buy an Android. It sucks because of X, Y, and Z, and use an iPhone. Now, I've since changed my opinion on Androids. I test on them. One reason I tell people to use an iPhone versus an Android is the amount of clicks I have to do on Android versus what feels more natural to me on an iPhone. And they don't crash as much as they still kind of do if you buy the cheaper ones, but you know how that goes. So I am now being a free, for lack of a better word, televangelist to Apple. If I go to the gym, I love pre-workout, Total War. Great pre-workout. Before that, I used something called Bucked Up. It's great. Until my friends had bad reactions to it, it's like, nope, okay, Total War is a good happy medium. And so now I'm telling people, use Total War as a pre-workout. Same thing with, jackets. I had someone who bought an AirPod Max from my recommendation. That's all free marketing based off of my experience with the product, my experience with your service, my experience with you. Your website needs to reflect that. Social media organically, non-paid ads, organically can become a word of mouth, a encouraging platform that you can direct people to your product, direct people to your services organically because of the relationship and value you're adding to people. It's all about value add, value proposition add. Why do I care? What's this product going to do for me? Why do I care? What problem is it solving? Why did you create it? Why? It has nothing to do with what it is. Do not create a social media and here's my products. It's not going to work. You can go, this beautiful product, you're blue in your face. It's not going to work as effective as we chose this product because it has this artistic sense, or it solves this problem, or it feels right, or all of these things that talk about that limbic part of your brain, that emotional context part of your brain. Because remember, customers do not make logical decisions. They don't. No matter facts and figures, no customer is going to make a logical decision. Think about how much debt's in the world. All those customers did not make a logical decision to get $40, $50, $60, $100,000 in credit card debt, in revolving credit card debt. They got there because they were sold a product because they felt like it was good. They used their credit card against their logical better judgment. And that's the kind of world we live in. The Western world consumers are not logical. And I'd fair to say most consumers internationally are not logical. Some are more logical. Some care about different things than the Western culture. So there's those kinds of separations. But your website should be this beautiful storefront. As if I'm walking into your store, I should be greeted, not overly popped up to, I hate the AI chatbots. I hate them. Do not throw them on my face. You can show them once in the bottom corner, right? But every page I go to should not, like QuickBooks.com, every page on QuickBooks.com, the AI bot goes, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here. Every time you click and all you're trying to do is like log in to your accounting software, or you're trying to find out how to do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, hey, how can I help? And like, go away. I don't want you, don't care about you. Not helpful. So there's a experience that you have to curate for customers. Just like a customer walk into your store, you have to curate that experience when a customer goes to your front page, which is going to be your number one page. Okay. So if you have a link tree on Instagram, which I don't recommend, if your Instagram is one brand, it goes to your homepage. If you want to have a landing page for your Instagram where you have, contests or 30% off and all those kinds of promotions. Some work, some don't work. Depends on your brand and thereforth. Your website becomes this gateway, this beautiful entrance into your products and services, as opposed to something that you're spending more time building blogs and more time building, content to attract SEO, and you can now focus more on your products and your services and answering that why. Now that could include a blog, because maybe that helps customers understand who you are, or maybe that includes a podcast, because it helps customers understand, here's what you need to know, here's all the complexities and how I can help. Great. But the number one most important thing for you to know is your website is not going to draw organic traffic anymore. And in the years and years coming up, it's going to start dropping. So now you need to build organically your email list. If you have brick and mortar, always collect an email. Always collect a cell phone number. Always. If someone asks, I don't want to do that, say, this is for returns. And everyone that comes with their return, look up their account by their phone number. Verify their receipt. You now have their text number. And there's a little checkbox that you can have them either pre-checked and they can uncheck it, or opt in and be like, yeah, give my text messages. Or yes, here's my email. And now, same thing with your website. People start interacting with it. People start loving the content. Great. Get their email. Get their text. Start building a text strategy to build your own file. Relying on social media, relying on search engines, all that's going to do is make you reliant on someone else. And they don't care about you. They care about their money. They care about their investors. I want you to own the relationship with your customers. If you use Square, if you use Shopify, these services are going to take your emails, are going to take your phone numbers, hide them from you, even though you can still kind of access them, because they want you to use their services. And that's called vendor lock-in. They want to own the whole pathway, so they make all of the money from you. And they make a lot of money from you. I've seen these bills and they're atrocious. But if you own the data, if you own the emails, if you own the text messages, if you start building customer files, you have a CRM, you start knowing, a customer comes in, they registered for your email campaign, they bought this product, and you can start deciding what the life cycle of your customer is going to be. You can start building, you can change marketing from the concept of, I'm going to buy all these ads and hope I get an easy button, to I'm building relationships that may come from ads, that may come from social media, that may come from email campaigns, that may come from referrals, that may come from other sources, right? Into your funnel. But you're funneling them into a pathway that builds relationships and encourage your users. So I hope this information that I shared with you, we probably spent about 45 minutes going through the internet. It's a lot of information, back when Amazon and eBay were new, jumping on the bandwagon of websites like almost guaranteed you traffic. But now, we went from a couple 100,000 websites to millions of websites, hundreds of top level domains. That's like .com, .store, .shop, .life, all these things. And your ecosystem that used to be smaller is now this vast ecosystem. Same thing with app stores. vast ecosystem. It's hard for you to get your business recognized through search unless you're paying for ads. But even now, as you saw with our example, Google didn't show any ads after turning off the ad blocker. I just showed their AI because all they want to do is they want to be your source. They want to be your affirmation. They don't want you to go to Times. They don't want you to go to Wikipedia. They don't want you to go somewhere else. They want you to stay within their ecosystem, stay within their platform, use Bard, use Gemini. That's the Google thing that I mentioned earlier. Use Groot, whatever X's thing is. All of these new AIs and use them primarily. The new reinvented Siri experience. I love that idea because it's supposed to be a secure experience, but it's on a device that I can control and that I have access to information and I'm sharing app data with, but it's on the device. It's not being shared everywhere else. Because remember, your data is the number one product for these customers. You're not your barcode. Your customer, I don't know, GUID, HX 32, 54, whatever it is, X's aren't in GUIDs. The point is, you now focus more on the design, usability, the user experience, and showcasing that why on your website. Spend less time on SEO. I'd almost say, if you have hired a bunch of SEO experts, kick them out, kiss them goodbye, replace them with social media, and do organic reaching out. And it's going to take a long time. You're going to respond to comments. You're going to have to build relationships. You're going to define communities and build this organic connection versus, well, let me just, hit the easy button and spend thousands and hundreds of thousands on ads and I'll make money. No, you're not going to make money that way. I use church because it's very easy for people to understand. No one marketing in a church. Churches can, and they do spend money on Facebook ads. They do spend money on Google ads. They spend money on, I know church spends money on iTickets. Why they still do that, I don't know. But that's not their main source of marketing. It's one-on-one conversations. It's sharing the gospel with someone, and that gets them connected into the church. That gets them connected to a community of believers. If that don't work, you'd be shocked about this. I know a church that does door hangers every single week, thousands of these things, and so they're able to keep getting this new influx of new people and keep being able to reach just by putting a simple thing on someone's door hanger. Mail marketing still works. Donors use it all the time. Mail marketing still works. Email marketing can work. Now, you can abuse email marketing and you can get your email score low, so you're appearing in junk mail and people are interacting with you. Okay. Or you can give them value add. Hey, here's today's Devo. Hey, here's today's podcast. Hey, here's today's 10 tips to succeed. Here's today's morning brew. Love morning brew. It has ads. It has sponsored posts. It shows products, but it still has value add. It's a quick way in the morning for me to see what the industry is doing, or industries of my choice, whatever it is. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Great. Now, usually it's 24 or 48 hours old, to be honest, based off whatever has been published on news sites. And sometimes they have sponsorships and things, and it's not a great experience in some areas, but they have just enough value add with marketing. So you might buy a product, or you might get interested in new software as a service, that kind of thing. That's the type of marketing you need to focus on. Don't focus on ads. Don't focus on SEO. Focus on building the right content and the right relationships. Find where your customers are. Meet them where they are. If they're on social media, they're on Instagram, not on TikTok, great. Focus on Instagram. Build that community. Build that trust. But there's no easy fix anymore. AI is constantly changing the game. You're constantly having to revisit things. Google's fighting with AI and trying to find out where it fits, and it's going to be losing money, and they're getting sued, and the DOJ is looking into them. Like, what we thought and what we perceive that a good website has to change. And it's not search engine optimization. It's not building your own private experience that answers the questions for some of your customers, but doesn't pay attention to usability, doesn't pay attention to user experience. A great website is going to have a great user experience. I'm going to be able to find the information I need quick, and I'm going to be able to answer the question, why do you exist and why should I care? That's what I believe. And of course, I don't know everything. I say this disclaimer all the time, don't know everything. Do your own research. Hey, hit those comments. Let me know if I said something that's a little bit out of the pocket, a little bit incorrect. Feel free to. I don't mind getting corrected. It's part of the creative experience. We're all learning. We're all learning. We're all growing. We're all human beings. Okay? So before we close out, let me just say a word of prayer over you. Lord, I thank you for everyone tuning into this podcast, everyone watching this YouTube, everyone watching these clips, Lord God, that you give them grace, mercy, and peace, creative brilliance. You inspire them to create those relationships and to build a business and to be the entrepreneur that you have inspired them and called them to be. I pray this, that your power resonate in everything we do, everything I do, and that your glory resonate on this earth, whether they're Christian or not. Let your hand be on them so that they know that you're with them and not against them. I pray this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. See you next time on this wonderful podcast.